Mitt Romney. Let's bring in our chief political analyst, Gloria Borger. Gloria, you've done something that no one else has managed to do. You had a chance to sit down last Tuesday with Beth Myers, who was really in charge of the selection committee for Mitt Romney, who would be the vice presidential running mate.
That's right. I sat down with Beth Myers, and she would only let me get in a couple of questions about the vice presidential selection because, of course, at that point, she knew presumably who the choice was going to be, but we did not. So I asked her some general questions about what this tells us about the way Mitt Romney makes decisions. Let's take a look. You've been very involved in the vetting and the process of choosing a vice presidential running mate, which is very, very important. It's the first chance people get to look at how a president makes decisions. So what is it about the process of choosing a vice president? What does that tell us about how Mitt Romney makes decisions?
Well, that's something I learned working with him as chief of staff in the governor's office for 4 years. That there is a way that he's very methodical in making his decisions. And what he wants is a couple things. First of all, he wants all the information. And we went about a very thorough process in making sure we had a lot of information about a broad group. He also doesn't like to rule anything out until he has to. So the first swath was broad, and we got a good cut of information about a lot of people. He then narrowed it down, and we got even more information. We got personal information from each of the potential candidates, and at that point, again, we had some attorneys look through and go through everybody's record to make sure that there was, I didn't want to miss anything about them. And then Mitt took these candidate dossiers and he thought about them. He read all of them word for word. I had talked with each of the candidates personally. He had obviously been campaigning with a lot of the folks that he was considering, and he read the dossiers, and we narrowed it down once again, and we did an even more deep dive on them, and then gave him the final product, and he's thinking about it now.
Does he solicit your advice, or
he solicits the advice of a small group of his advisors, but then he asks, I think, everybody he meets, what's your thought on this?
And
so
he listens.
He listens. I mean, he asks, sort of people you wouldn't think that he'd ask about it. He talks to, he calls friends from all walks of his life, all across the country, wanting to know what they think. He listens to that, and then but I haven't told him. I have not shared with him my opinion, because I think it's important that I'm the objective.
So it's his comfort level with someone, and his feeling that person's qualified to be president.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, his first qualification is that the person is qualified to be president, and perceived to be qualified to be president.
Good interview, Gloria. And we now know the actual decision was made 11 days ago, August 1st, immediately after Mitt Romney returned from his visit to Poland, Israel, and Britain.
Yeah, so Beth Myers wasn't giving it away to me at that point, but I think the decision-making process does tell us something about Mitt Romney, maybe things we already knew about Mitt Romney, which is that he is methodical. He looks at the data. He wants to see the spreadsheets on every person, read all of the information, and then solicited advice from the people closest to him. And as she put it, not only in his inner circle, but perhaps friends and family. Surely Ann Romney, I think, was one of those people.
Her job.
And Beth.
Beth Myers, her job was to vet all these candidates, including, obviously, Paul Ryan, not only their financial history, their own personal history, and ask them some of the toughest, potentially most embarrassing questions, because the last thing they want is somebody who is going to emerge as the vice presidential running mate, and all of a sudden something emerges that could embarrass Mitt Romney.
I'm sure they had a team of lawyers, but Beth Myers is also an attorney herself, and I'm sure that the vetting process was very tough. Everybody knows what happened during the McCain campaign, where the vetting process was sort of last minute in a bunch of cases,
where they picked Sarah Palin.
Particularly Sarah Palin. So I think that this campaign was intent on having a long and serious vetting process, and that's kind of who Mitt Romney is. From everyone you talk to, they say he wants to look at the data, he wants to see everything.